the time commitment is really difficult. I run to and from work probably 2-3 times a week. When I'm doubling a lot, I run home every day, right? I think if I had a part-time job, it would that would really be the way to optimize running. I think not having anything though, I would get so stir crazy. And then like you said, there's all this pressure, right? Because if running's not going well and it's all you've got, man, would that be tough.
Welcome back, Beer Mile Nation. Or if you're a first-time listener, thanks for tuning in to the Beer Mile podcast. You are joining us in our little mini series leading up to the Chicago Marathon. We're bringing on guests who are racing the Chicago Marathon on October 9th and hearing how training's going, hearing where their head's at, hearing what their goals are for the marathon itself. Today, this is episode number 2 of this mini series. Episode number 1 of the series was with Frank Lara. So go back an episode to episode 97 if you want to hear how Frank is feeling, Frank the Tank, going into the race in Chicago. Today, we have Matt McDonald. Matt is probably a lesser known name to many out there in the running scene. He just is a grinder, man. He is a 2:10 marathoner, ran 2:10 at Boston Marathon this year. He ran 2:11 at the Chicago Marathon in 2019, which led him to a 10th place finish at the US Olympic Trials for the marathon in 2020. So this guy is absolutely no joke. And what we really like about him, aside from just how fast he is and being one of the top American marathoners out there, is that he's doing it while also grinding away on, well, his PhD for several years and now a postdoctorate program at MIT in chemical engineering. And specifically, you know, if you listen to this show for a while, you know that Adam himself is a software engineer, a little bit of a nerd when it comes to some of the tech stuff. And this is right up his alley, and Matt dives in a little bit to his research. So extremely interesting and also just very impressive to learn of someone who is working in a lab, researching all day, you know, doing more than what a full-time job would be alone on the research, but still finding time to get in the big mileage and compete at the highest level with others in the marathon who do nothing but run. So this is a truly unique story. We love Matt. We love the conversation. We're going to be rooting for him in Chicago, cheering him on the streets. And I think you're going to love this conversation as well. So thanks for tuning in. Speaking of the marathon and grinding away on training, if you're a runner out there, you know that recovery is a very, very important part of training, perhaps the most important part of training. And you know what really doesn't help recovery? Alcohol. You know, I don't make the rules, I just enforce them. And unfortunately, alcohol is one of those things that it really does not help your running performance, your athletic performance, your job performance, really any sort of performance. But thankfully, with Athletic Brewing's NA craft beers, you can enjoy all the great beer taste without compromise, without the hangover. And our listeners get 20% off their entire order and free shipping right to their door at athleticbrewing.com when you use our code BeerMile20. That's BeerMile20, all one word, at athleticbrewing.com. Athletic has won over 6 international brewing awards, and they put out over 50 NA beers every year, including IPAs and Goldens and Stouts, etc. So you can be sure there's no compromise on taste. And if you're like me and you love that post-run shower beer, or you even love a beer during lunch on a work day, with Athletic Brewing, you can enjoy it guilt-free anytime. We've had the CEO of Athletic Brewing on, Bill Schufelt. Go back to episode 55 if you want to listen to that. We've also been part of both of Athletic Brewing's NA Beer Mile events that they put on to date. They're big fans of the Beer Mile. We're big fans of Athletic Brewing. And if that weren't reason enough, they are also charitable and have donated over $2.5 million to restoring outdoor spaces around the globe. So you're not going to go wrong. Head over to athleticbrewing.com. You'll find an NA craft beer for you. They'll ship it right to your door, and you can use our code BeerMile20. That's all one word, BeerMile20, for 20% off and free shipping. This episode is also brought to you by Manscaped. Manscaped is #1 in men's grooming and hygiene and confidence. I exclusively use Manscaped products for all of my trimming needs, my body wash, my cologne, my deodorant, really everything across the board, because they have the best products out there to make you smell good, feel good, give you that confidence that you need to carry on throughout the day. And my personal favorite, the boxers. I talk about these all the time. These boxers, they are chafe-free. I've worn them for a marathon, odor-resistant, and I'm going to be rocking these bad boys in my next marathon at the Chicago Marathon under my half tights. I will live and die by the Manscaped boxers. So head over to manscaped.com and use our code BeerMile, all one word, BeerMile, for 20% off your order and free shipping.
You're listening to the Beer Mile Podcast.
All right, Matt. Well, we got you on. What are we now? We're like 11, 12 days out from Chicago. Let's just start with how you're feeling. How has training been going this cycle? Are you feeling good, feeling confident? Where's your head at going into the race?
The taper started this week, so my head is all over the place. One of the things I do as part of the taper is I cut out caffeine. So I think I haven't had any caffeine in 2 days now. So I've been really miserable. But no, I think I'm in a good place going into the race. Fitness is all there. Getting my head on straight, starting to let the legs relax a little bit now. So yeah, it's just that last little bit of preparation, which sometimes it can be the toughest, even though the physical work is already there.
As far as tapering goes, are you somebody who gets like restless during tapering? Is that something that you find to be relaxing, just chill before the race?
No, I think I get a lot of like phantom pains and stuff during the taper. And suddenly you're not doing 100+ miles a week and my Achilles hurts now. Like, really? So it's definitely more restless than restful.
Fair enough. On the caffeine taper piece, I've actually never tried this, but a lot of my fellow runner friends do this exact same thing. I forget exactly what they call it, but yeah, basically don't have any caffeine and then you have it the morning of the race and feel awesome. So is that the plan? You don't have it and then the morning of the race, you have some caffeine and you just expect to feel, 10 times better than you normally would, or what's the strategy here?
That is definitely the goal. I'm like a heavy coffee drinker. Every morning, first thing I do when I wake up, and then, once or twice again in the afternoon.
Is that going to be your source of caffeine the day of the marathon, or are you going to go to some caffeine alternative?
No, morning of, I'll have a cup of coffee. Not to be lewd, but it also helps clear things out in the morning. So
that's how I start my bowel movements every day.
But then during the race, I'll take some caffeine too, in the Martin drink mix. So
perfect. Yeah, you'll definitely be. Hopefully, it'll be hitting real good in the middle of the race when you're taking that in after a little break.
Yep.
So crossed. Yeah, exactly. So how, in terms of goals for the race, so you're coming into this one with a 2:10 PB at Boston, even though I think your World Athletics profile claims that the 2:11 from Chicago in 2019 is your PR. What are you thinking?
It's not a legal course technically.
Fair. True. The downhill is
because it's point to point. Yep.
Got it. Well, either way, are you looking? Yeah. Do you have time goals in mind? Place goals in mind?
Yeah.
How are you going into the race?
So I'd like to run about a minute PR from Boston. So 2:09:30, right around there. Just talking to people, it feels like everyone says if you could run 2:10:30 at Boston, you can run 2:09:30 on a flat course, and we'll see whether or not they're right about that. I don't know if it 100% translates, but that's sort of the pace I've been training with in mind this whole time.
Do you know, is there going to be a pacer around that time mark?
I don't know, actually. One of my teammates was trying to figure out if he could do it, but he's running New York. And I think our coach is kind of like, don't sacrifice your training for Matt's race. And I was like, oh, come on, coach. Why not?
Sacrifice. Come on.
So
I would imagine that there will be, because a lot of the American men are, right around that 2:10, 2:11, PR range. So I would assume that there will be quite a, strong pack roughly at that pace, would be my guess. So.
I'm assuming that I'll be running in a pack for a good chunk of the race. And to be honest, that's kind of, you watch a lot of marathons and you see the women split up right away and the men stick together. I'm hoping that trend continues. Well, to be honest, I don't really care what the women do, but I'd like to run with some of the, most talented guys in the country, and we'll duke it out at the end.
Before we started the show, you mentioned it's weird to have your name in the mix as the people who are talked about running in a pack of these people who are talked about. How does that affect your mentality racing?
Well, like you said, it's weird thinking that I'm getting talked about. I think part of my, the way it affects me is like, I know that the other guys in the pack with me respect me, or hopefully they do. And it doesn't really matter what anyone on the sidelines is thinking, right? It's just what those guys are going to do with you. I just would hope that there will still be like a spirit of working together and whatnot, right? It is a marathon. It's a long race and we all want to have a big PR. I think that's one of the big attractions of Chicago, a chance for a fast time. And so I think as long as we're pretty cooperative, working together, not pushing and shoving, and, if somebody misses a bottle, somebody else will step up and hand them a little of theirs. As long as we have that kind of mentality, I think it'll be a good day for all of us all around. I'm confident that'll be the case though.
Very true. So at least right now, the weather in Chicago is trending very nice. It's starting to get into the 40s at night, and the highs are only like 60. So it's looking like as of right now, it's looking like it's going to be
pretty fast. Yeah.
Prime conditions, which is going to be really exciting to see how things play out up there. You've done a few different marathons. Which one is your favorite of the ones you've done?
Oh, well, I have to say the Boston Marathon, right? I mean, I'm in Boston.
Okay,
I run
fair.
for the BAA, and I've done the Boston Marathon 3 times now. So it's the marathon I've done the most. And the energy on that course is really spectacular. But I have to say the Olympic trials in 2020 were also incredible. At the time, I was running for Atlanta Track Club, and it was in Atlanta. And so that was a really special hometown race. But the energy they brought was on par with Boston, but Boston brings that every single year. I've done it 3 times now, and every time it's just a out of this world experience. I've been training here all summer, which has been good and bad, right? We get some heat and humidity, not too unlike Chicago. And, the weather has also turned the corner recently, and it's starting to cool down. I think last Sunday was like the last really hot and humid and grueling day. Fingers crossed that that weather holds for the next 10 days, right?
I mean, you've at least prepared for the worst case scenario.
Yeah, a lot of sweat this summer. Wasn't always the most fun. But I'll tell you, training for Boston in the spring, I also stayed in Boston all winter. I don't know which one was harder, the heat or the cold.
Yeah.
Either way, though, is it better, would you say, than summers in Atlanta?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's got to be.
Okay.
It's still Boston summer in Atlanta right now, right? Like it is hot and humid down there. But winters were nice.
So you mentioned working as well. So what is your current setup in terms of, do you have other guys that you're training with on a consistent basis? And then, lifestyle wise, you finished your PhD. And so how are you balancing the training with, everything else that you have going on in your life as well? Do you want 20% off and free shipping right to your door on award-winning brews? Use our code BeerMile20, that's BeerMile20, all one word, at athleticbrewing.com to get 20% off your entire order today. With Athletic Brewing's non-alcoholic craft beers, you can drink guilt-free without the hangover. Give it a try. BeerMile20, all one word, BeerMile20 at athleticbrewing.com for 20% off. Cheers.
Yeah, so, run with the BAA here, and we've got a good crew of guys in the marathon now. My teammate Jonas, who I mentioned before, was trying to get around to pacing, but he's doing New York. My teammate Paul, he'll be at Chicago with us, so he should do well. And then Gerald Mock, who's also an incredibly fast guy. We're still trying to figure out what fall marathon he'll be doing, just some little hiccups training here and there, but he's really coming around too. We've got a good crew, and then there's some faster guys on the team too. But balancing work is not something that all of us on the team have to do. So I definitely sometimes feel in a disadvantage coming into some workouts if I had like a long day at the office the day before. But you play the hand you're dealt, and I don't try and make a big fuss out of it and just go out there and give it my all. But as far as what my job is, I think it's really cool. So like you said, I finished up my PhD at Georgia Tech in 2020. And then I came up here. I'm at MIT now doing a postdoctorate in chemical engineering. And we're just working on like some really cool projects. I could nerd out about this for a long time, but I don't know if that's interesting to anyone else.
Tell us, please do. Give us an overview. I want to know more about this.
I'm curious to see how far over my head this goes.
Oh, okay. Well, now I got to think about how to tame it down. So essentially, we're working on a robotic platform for automated discovery of new chemicals. So basically, there's so much bias in what we already know about chemistry. And pharmaceutical compounds are one area that we're really excited about, but there's all sorts of interesting molecules and target molecules that you could go after. But we're so biased by what's been done that when we try and use data-rich tools like machine learning and AI, we really struggle because the computers get hung up on what's already been done because that's all they've ever seen, right? They can't look and figure out something new to do. So really, that's where we're coming in. We're trying to come up with models that can figure out new stuff to do, figure out how to do it on their own, and then measure the outcomes of those new reactions or the properties of the new molecules on their own. And then the computer can feed that information back into itself and learn new areas of the chemical landscape all by itself. So it's a lot of automation, machine learning, data science, and then good old fashioned chemistry too.
And it's completely like closed loop, like there's no human interaction.
That is the goal. Right now, there's still a little bit of human interaction, but we're really pretty close on this.
Damn.
I'm surprised that actually, based on, like failing OChem, I'm surprised that what you're working on actually kind of translates for me at least.
I mean, what we're doing isn't like anything crazy. It's just trying to have a computer do it, right? You failed OChem. Our computer is failing OChem right now too.
So I'm curious. You go from doing like really cool R&D stuff to training at an extremely high level. Like how much of that crosses over? Like do you get to talk about this stuff to teammates? Or are they like, oh, like cool, Matt, like we don't care?
Yeah, they don't care so much. I will say the people I work with, they care about running more. So I get to talk to them about training and stuff, which is cool. But yeah, the time commitment is really difficult. Like I run to and from work probably 2-3 times a week. When I'm doubling a lot, I run home every day, right? It just, save that half-hour commute each way by getting the run in at the same time.
Right.
Yeah. Obviously, you're sacrificing a little bit maybe on like the recovery from the runs and stuff that you would get if you came home and had an hour to foam roll and whatnot. But, getting that extra hour back means that I can maybe go to the gym when I get home and do some plyos and things like that.
Do you take the same academic rigor that you have with your professional chemistry career to running?
Yes and no. I would honestly say there's only so much that a person can give at one time. So like in the build up for Chicago, the R&D stuff has maybe fallen a little bit behind. But then, after the marathon, I'll take a couple weeks off and hopefully catch up a little and work and enjoy life a little bit more, but definitely not be running.
Assuming, I guess if Chicago either goes well or you don't hit some of the goals, say you're celebrating, who are you celebrating with and what are you doing?
Well, it's actually my old roommate's birthday, October 9th. And since we lived together in Atlanta and he has since moved to Chicago. So regardless of what happens in the race, I'll be celebrating Brandon Lassiter's birthday and it'll be a good time.
Very good. I'm wondering, because there are several other runners, pro runners that also work alongside their professional running career. I'm wondering, do you think that maybe in a way, because clearly it's worked for you for, several years being a PhD student, you're similarly, time bound and time restrained. Do you think that in a way it maybe helps your running in the sense that, there's not quite as much pressure solely on the running aspect and performance and everything, because you do have this whole other, part of your life that you're pursuing and mentally focused on and not just worried about running 24/7. Like, do you see it as maybe also a positive as well? Or do you still think that, if you were truly to go all in on running, that you could maybe maximize performance a little bit better there because of the extra, time for recovery, sleep, that sort of thing?
Yeah. I think if I had a part-time job, it would, that would really be the way to optimize running. I think not having anything though, I would get so stir crazy. And then like you said, there's all this pressure, right? Because if running's not going well and it's all you've got, man, would that be tough. But I think working the hours I work is a detriment, but there is a sweet spot where it would be pretty nice. And then I'll also say, like, I think there's something to be said that I'm working in a laboratory a lot. So I'm on my feet for probably half the day. And, you'll hear a lot of coaches talk about like time on feet for this long run. Like we don't have to push it fast. Well, I'm logging a lot of time on my feet, even if they're not really miles.
Very true.
I think there's definitely something to be said about that.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
But yeah,
for sure.
I'd love an extra hour of sleep every night. So we could figure that one out.
Yep. We would all love that. Even those of us that aren't professional running, we would absolutely love that extra hour of sleep. All Americans could use that.
Yeah, seriously.
Awesome.
Well, we have Chris, do you want to do some trivia closing questions?
Let's do it. Yeah, go for it.
Do some trivia.
Kick it off.
Yeah.
All right. So these are all based on the Chicago Marathon. I think a lot of these are from last year.
Okay.
So typically, how many days are required to set up for the marathon?
I'm going to guess, well, I saw on Instagram that they were painting the blue line the other day for us to follow in the course. I'm going to guess it takes 30 days of, well, what do we count as setup? Because I know they're planning it years, maybe months in advance. But
setup is from, I think what they qualified it as is when they actually put boots on ground. I'm
going to say 30 days.
Okay. It's 16, but honestly, if they're, well, I guess it's only the 20. Yeah, maybe it is 16 days.
No, I believe it.
If it's 20.
I can confirm. I just drove by the finish line area today, and they already got all the porta potties lined up in a row right by the start finish. So can confirm that they've been working on this for at least a little while.
Speaking
I would
of
guess that would be
potties,
one of the last things.
Well, there's a lot of them. Speaking of which, how many porta potties are used in the race?
I'm going to guess 200.
Oh, I'll give you a second guess. Your hint is it's way more than that.
Well, how many? There's like 40 to 50,000 people. I guess 200 would not be nearly enough.
I'll give you your clue is I think along the course there's 500.
Wow. So there's got to be close to 1,000 then. Another couple hundred at the start finish area.
There's 1,500 total.
Oh man.
And knowing runners, that's dangerous. That's a lot of porta potties get some use.
Yeah, they're going to be well used too.
How many neighborhoods does the marathon route traverse?
Oh, I was just looking at the course the other day. I feel like it's probably about a dozen, right?
A little more.
A little. Like
I actually don't know. I couldn't name all of them.
Sure.
But because it goes so far south, it does hit a lot.
Mm-hmm. So is it 20?
Close. It's 29.
Wow, that is a lot.
I could maybe name like 15.
Okay. I could name like free.
Three. Got Chinatown, Wrigley, and
Greektown or something like that.
Something like that. Here's a good one. How many total bananas are provided to runners? Your clue on this one is that there are 5 digits in the answer.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, if there's like 40,000 people, everybody gets a couple bananas. So maybe like 150,000 bananas.
Close. 75,000.
Wow. I mean,
I feel like the one per,
bananas.
Yeah, a couple per runner is that's a good proxy. Mm-hmm. Let's do last one. How many safety pins do you think?
Whew. That's got to be like 500,000 because they just give everybody a ton of them, right?
I feel like their answer is wrong because there's like 40,000 people that.
Yeah, I thought it was 40,000 people. Everybody needs 4, 8. Everybody needs 8
minimum.
So
yeah.
What I read said 200,000. I feel like it's got to be like everyone gets double what they need, so it's got to be like 300-ish thousand.
Still a lot of not paper clips, safety pins. Hopefully nobody's using a paper clip
for their bib. I'm sure it's been done before, but I wouldn't recommend it.
No.
Those are good. Okay, then let's do closing. Let's do for closing out here a couple predictions. So give us, what do you think is the winning men's and women's times?
Winning men's time, I think, is going to be, if the weather holds up the way it's been, 2:03 and change.
Wow.
And then, I mean, if the weather's nice, it's a flat course, we can roll.
It's fast.
Exactly. I can't run 2:03, but and then on the women's side, I'm thinking it'll be like a 2:15, 2:16, somewhere in there. Again, all based on weather. You guys know it. It could flip.
I mean, so far.
Yeah. Because
they've never shut off our air conditioning this early into the year. So
really,
I feel like,
okay.
Oh yeah. I mean, I feel like it's going to be 45.
That would be
less.
A dream. Yeah. I think that's right around what it was in 2019. And, women's world record went down that day. So maybe my guess is pretty far off.
I think you're right in there with where I would guess as well. All right, last one. Top 3. Who do you think are the top 3 Americans on the men and women's side? At least the men's side. You probably know the men's field a little bit better. I
haven't looked at the women's field a ton, so I'll just answer for the men. I'll throw myself in the mix because that's right. Where I want to be. I think Connor Mance is going to have a really, really good debut. Just based off, how well he ran at New Haven and some other stuff. And then I'm going to throw my former teammate from Atlanta, Wilkerson Given, in the mix. He trains for Hanson's now, but I know that he's a really hard worker, and this will be his 3rd Chicago. And last year, obviously, was hot and not great, but I think, 3rd time's the charm, and he'll be up there with us.
Word on the street is that the Hanson's group is pretty sharp right now, so I believe it. You're onto something.
I definitely believe it. They're coming for it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you joining us. We're excited to see how it all goes down. I mean, you've been pretty consistent at the marathon, just getting better and better these last 5 or so years since you debuted. So definitely excited to see what you can do.
If only I could bring that consistency down to a shorter race, but that's for another time. Don't have to worry about that right now.
That's right. People only care about the marathon anyway. The marathon and the mile, any other race doesn't matter. So you're in the right event.
That's what I like to hear.
Awesome, Matt. Thanks for joining. We'll see you at the finish line, I hope.
Yes, you will. Sounds good.
All right. Cheers. And there you have it. Thanks for tuning in to this conversation, y'all. If you want to support the show, you can take 2 seconds and leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple. You can also hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel, Beer Mile Media. We also put the podcast out there. And then, of course, you can support us by supporting our sponsors. You can use our code BeerMile20, that's BeerMile20, all one word, at athleticbrewing.com to get award-winning NA craft beers delivered right to your door. You can also use code BeerMile, all one word, at manscaped.com for all of your male grooming, hygiene, and confidence needs. And lastly, but not least, you can get the best sunglasses in the game at knockaround.com. Use our code BeerMilePod, all one word, for 20% off. Thank you for the support. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one.